Good morning and welcome to the Auto Hub show. If you haven't watched the show in a little bit, we're going right into the show now. That's our new format because obviously we want to add value immediately. We do have to stop mid-show for a brief commercial break, but essentially we're doing live right away. So I usually pick the person who A is new to the show and B is the first one out. So I'm going to start with Dave Carson because he was the first one on this morning. Go ahead, Dave. Tell me a little bit more about you and what you do. And more importantly, what is the best experience in a retail environment in 25 or 26, in your opinion?
Thank you so much. And please let me know if you can hear me okay. It looks like I might have some streaming issues here, but hopefully you can hear me today. Dave Carson, I am with Pinewood AI. I lead the sales as we enter the North American market. I have over close to 40 years, I don't want to age myself that much, in automotive retail and automotive retail technology. And again, recently just joined Pinewood AI to help them bring the modern cloud-native automotive retail platform into the US. Very excited about that and the opportunities that it will lead for dealers to look at their tech stacks and how they could create better foundations for data and AI. As far as great experiences, it's 2026. I had a little bit of difficult time thinking about something just because not a lot of small retail, but not a lot of large retail. But something popped into my mind that I think was really worth mentioning. I'm a Marriott guy, Titanium. I always brag about that. But this year we booked a trip through Hilton. And I got to say, the experience was quite amazing. My wife and I decided to take my son and his new wife to Hawaii. They had never been to Hawaii before. We wanted the experience to be bespoke and special for them. And I got aligned with an agent from Hilton, and they took me through the entire process to ensure that we got the experience we wanted, the accommodations we were looking for. It just kept me informed entirely through the process. They made it easy, and that's what I'm looking for when I look for a great experience, and that's what I got with Hilton. One last thing, I did suggest or ask Ian the other day if I could make a quick plug, and I think it really ties into the conversations that we're having today. On October 8th in Chicago, Pinewood is partnering with the Financial Times on an event that's focused entirely on AI and the future of automotive retail. I really hope that everybody in the audience gets a lot out of today's conversation, and maybe we'll see you there, and we can continue the discussion.
And there is a quick link on the screen if you want to check it out live. That's going on in Chicago, I believe, in partnership with the Financial Times. So if you're in Chicago or going to be in that area, that's definitely something you should check out. So we're going to start with Ashley next. I know that she's never been on the show before, so hopefully I'm not putting her on the spot, but maybe you can tell us a little bit more about you and tell us what your retail environment, I guess, brag story is.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ashley Callahan, I work at Pure Influencer. I lead the team there. Our focus is on helping dealers capture more of the opportunities that are already living on their website today in that busiest showroom that they have. A newfound focus on really dialing in on moving aging inventory to reduce holding costs and help with that. And then we also uncover the truth behind what's performing on a dealer's website. And so helping them navigate where they can reduce spend, where they can reallocate spend, and all of that stuff. So it's really about being kind of an operational layer on a dealer's website. It's being that best salesperson 24/7 for them. I've been doing this with Pure Influencer for 6 years now. Actually, I think like today is 6 years. And I came from the hospitality industry. So I grew up in the hospitality industry doing corporate marketing for a large restaurant franchise group. And the two just, they really fell in place as far as like that industry and its nuances and automotive, and loved jumping into this new retail environment that is as fast paced as the hospitality world is. So that's been a lot of fun. You know, I was sharing with a couple of you pre-show, and I apologize, my internet's going to be a little bit slow today. My best experience was right at the tail end of 25. I was getting married and ordered a wedding band, and the wedding band did not arrive in time. It did not get there in time, and it wasn't going to. And instead of that being full chaos, the jeweler just stepped in. They grabbed another band out of their case, immediately had it sized for me, and it was ready that morning. And, you know, it was about the fact that they didn't worry about supply chain. They didn't try to blame it on someone else. It was that they understood the importance of what my experience was going to be that day, and they wanted to be a solution and not part of the problem for anything. And so I just thought that was so cool. You know, she really went above and beyond and didn't have to do that. I didn't ask for that. That was this is what we're doing. She just offered the solution. So that's the kind of experience I expect, right? Where whomever it is that I'm making that transaction with, no matter what size it is that there's an attention to detail. There's active listening happening, that they understand why I'm making this purchase, that they see me. And I think that that's what was really cool about that experience.
Thanks very much. And Jay, I don't think you've been on before. I'm not sure. So maybe you can talk
First
a little
time.
There you go. First
First-time caller. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about you and what you do, and also what your best experience in retail environment was. And it doesn't have to be this year, or whatever you think.
For sure. Yeah. Thanks, Steve. Well, good morning, everybody. Glad to be on. So Jay Petznick, the Vice President of Sales for AutoHub. For those that do not know what AutoHub is, I know it's actually the name of this podcast, which is fantastic. and it's crazy. This is the first time that we've actually had representation on the podcast. Yep. But nonetheless, we're here today. But AutoHub is the end-to-end full acquisition strategy. So when you think of any chance a dealer can acquire a customer's car, whether they come through the service drive, they go online, and they come in store, those are the three areas in which we help the dealer. And to me, as an ex-GM, so I ran stores for 20 years before getting on the software side. You need to have that continuity in pricing and process across all three platforms, because there's nothing worse than going through the service drive, getting a number, and then they go online to validate that number. It's a completely different tool and a different process, and it's a different number. Then they really don't start to trust you, right? And then they come in store, and it's a completely different process from the first two, and a different number from the first two, and then they don't know what to think. So you need to have continuity across all three. When we joined the team, myself and a handful of us back after the company was acquired at the end of 2024, came on board in 25. There was just over 300 stores at the time. I just saw the count. We're getting ready to cross over 1,500 stores this month, which is just, it's been insanity to think about. But it's really a top three priority and pain point for most dealers I talk to, is just how do I acquire more cars specifically out of the service drive, and automating that process and making it easier. And that's why I love this topic, Ian, about customer experience, because I think dealers, for the most part, they know they needed to buy cars out of service, but it's been a very manual process, right? Like, hey, Jay, go back there and talk to service customers. Because when I first got started in the business, we didn't have leads. Like, we had to work the service drive. Right. So it's a lot of, if I could, would you let me get you some coffee? But customers, they want their space, right? So how can we provide a better customer service when we communicate with those customers? I really think AutoHub does that. So a lot like Dave said, I'm kind of an introvert. When I travel so much for work, and when I'm home, I really don't go out and go to too many retail places. I think that's probably why Jeff Bezos is the richest guy in the world, just because I'm contributing to that every day with Amazon purchases. But I did want to talk about one place that I go to, and it ties into a lot like how I used to run my stores. So I buy my supplements from this place called Supplement Super Source. It's not the cheapest around, but I go there mainly for the experience. So when you first walk in, there's music going, there's energy, right? I can't tell you how many times I walked into a dealership and it's just quiet and nobody's engaging. I'm like, man, would you want to do business here? So you walk in right away, they're engaging, they're there to greet you, but they're not right there to open the door. You're usually going to meet a manager or the owner if he's in there. They always come out, they remember what you talked about last time. They're very good at asking questions like, what are you looking to do? Blah, blah, blah. Great at discovery, not trying to oversell you. And then they do a couple things above and beyond that I think are fantastic. So when you're checking out, because you talk about a lot of things and you don't buy everything at once. So managers always like, I'll tell you what, they'll go get their personal stash. They'll give you a couple baggies of stuff to try. Hey, try this out. Let me know what you think. And then they top it off with something that we used to do at our dealerships. They'd send a handwritten note to every customer. So I always get my handwritten postcard with what we talked about. Let me know what those samples. I'll see you next time. Something personal. And so it's all of those little things that tie into a great customer experience. And I'm excited to continue this conversation with everybody else.
Fantastic. We did get a comment from Ron Morrison saying hello, I guess, to Dave Carson. I'm not sure if you know him, but anyway, he was saying hello. Katie, I know you have nothing to do with customer experience. I know you don't have no interest in this topic at all. Maybe you can share your, I guess, best experience in 2025 or 2026.
Yeah. My life is experiences. It's what I do. It's what I design. I'm a customer experience strategist, and I have designed experiences for some of the world's largest organizations, like Celebrity Cruises. And I have worked with some of the best and some of the best automotive groups and OEMs that really care about humans. It's one of the really cool things when I got into the space. I got into the industry because I had a series of really awful car buying experiences. And I'm like, okay, there's an opportunity here. I'm going to bring hospitality into the industry. I'm going to do what no one is doing. And then I focused slightly on the female consumer. So my first best-selling book, Customefr Experience, I teach men how and why women buy, because we are the world's most influential consumer. More women does equal more money, period, full stop. We hold the purse strings to the world's economy. But in terms of experiences, I have a lot of great ones. I have even more horrible ones. And I think that is the underlying message that we should really talk about today or anytime is how many people get it wrong and how much they're actually losing. 93% of customers are going to leave you based off of 2 negative experiences. So you have 1.5 shots basically to get it right before they go somewhere else. And because Jay, you mentioned online, you mentioned how you can sit there and we can ask Claude, ChatGPT, Google, Gemini to compare. I want this item, and it'll give you 10 different retailers, whether it is a vehicle, whether it's service, whether it's an F&I product, or anything in your personal life. It is easy to lose to the competition. Customers choose you based off of how you make them feel. And in the automotive space, feelings are not something we talk about a lot, but feelings generate energy. And Jay, I love when you said there was an energy when you walked into that supplement store. You own the energy dictates the experience. And so recently my daughter and my son had twins. They just turned 16. My son just wanted pizza and video games for his 16th birthday. I mean, that was easy. But of course, my daughter wanted a fancy dinner, all dressed up, color theme and all. So out we went to the Ritz-Carlton, because where else would we go if we want a great experience? And let me tell you, they did a top-notch job, right down to the menu in front of her and her friends that said Ella's Sweet 16. And it was a complete menu just for her. Every single detail was taken care of, and she was made to feel special that day. And the girls pranced around the lobby of the Ritz-Carlton thinking they were just the cat's meows. And you should have seen the feelings that exuded from their smiles. So it's experiences like that. If you can make somebody feel something different, then you're winning the experience. But good different, not bad different, because you lose it just as quick.
David, introduce yourself. I know you're a veteran now, but introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your best experience.
Well, I am, thanks, I appreciate that. David Lampel. I am the CEO and founder of Dealer Wing. I was a dealer, automobile dealer for a couple of decades almost previously. I've got, dating myself, 40 years in the automobile industry. So I have, now that I've been on the vendor side for about 14, 15, I have experience on both sides. So when it comes to customer experience, since Dealer Wing is focused solely on the advertising and branding of the dealerships that we work with, and we've got over 1,000 stores nationwide. A couple of the points that have already been brought up specifically resonate with me. First of all, when it comes to the in-store experience, obviously the energy is a huge piece of that. And, being that I have walked into, I had a store, and in our stores, we had the music playing, we had a lot of energy up front. It's incredibly important to make sure that you set yourself up for success. And if you walk in a store and there's no music and the lighting, I can't tell you how many stores I've been in where the lighting was terrible, where you can't, it's almost gloomy when you first walk in the store. And there's some little things like that you can do to enhance the customer experience when they come in. And lighting is a really big part of it. Lighting, music, atmosphere. You want to make sure that there's a good scent, if you can, in the dealership, so that people aren't puckering their nose as soon as they walk in the store. It is a huge part of the customer experience. With respect to the marketing side, what I can tell you that I know beyond a shadow of a doubt is the biggest thing that's going to ruin the customer experience is inaccurate marketing. Communicating to somebody when they don't want to be talked to, or communicating to somebody about a car that they no longer own, or in an area, or communicating to somebody that has a gas run vehicle about electric, or if somebody has electric about a gas run. Your inattention or inability to target people as a dealer where they are with relevant information will do more to turn them off, and they will shut off your communication. They will unsubscribe. Creates a very quick, easy, poor experience for the dealer. Conversely, if you're hitting customers where they want to be hit with the communication style that they prefer, whether it's email, whether it's text, whether it's a phone call, and the information that you're giving them is relevant, where they, on a car that they still own, or maybe they need service on, any of those types of things have the difference to make or break the experience. And they're not even in your store. They're not going to get to your store, because if you're sending me information about a car that I had 6 years ago and I haven't owned in 5 years, the experience that you're going to feel as a customer is, number one, they're not doing their homework. They don't care about me. They're wasting my time communicating things that they don't need to communicate on. So you wind up getting blocked. And when you get blocked, you have little to no chance of getting them back. For obvious reasons, you can't, at that point, they're off limits. And so along with the energy and the initial experience when you walk in a dealership, with respect to what Dealer Wing does, when you're communicating to them, you need to make sure you hit them where they are with relevant information, accurate information, and because that can turn a good customer experience sour very quickly.
Fantastic. So do you feel great customer experience is up to the business, the staff, or is it a leadership problem? Let's start with Jay on this. Do you think it's leadership, or do you think it's everybody else?
I mean, it has to start with leadership first and foremost. It has to be part of the culture. Like the experience has to be also felt from the staff. Like the four walls in the store have to be accurate, right? If you don't have that right, you're not going to be able to pass along something that you don't know or don't feel or experience yourself. So leadership, what drives the ship 100%. And I love what Katie said about the Ritz-Carlton. Like that was something that we talked about huge in our store, right? The Ritz-Carlton effect. I can't tell you how many times I walked into a dealership and I'm like, hey, parts department, yeah, it's back there. And I'm like, oh, okay. So somebody walks in the store, they ask for a department that's not sales or us. Guess what? You walk them all the way to that department and you stay there with them. You introduce them to the member by names, right? You make sure they're taken care of. So, but that message has to be delivered from the leadership and then bought in by the team. And we actually had a book that was like our Bible. It was Hug Your Customer, right? Like that was a book that we read as a dealership, and we really tried to live it day in and day out. But it starts with leadership again.
Fantastic. Yeah, I worked for a company years ago that was big on extreme ownership. But I think if you haven't read The Nordstrom Way or what Apple's doing, you probably should. But at the end of the day, I think if they're not all on the same page, and some of them are in and some of them are out, it's definitely a challenge. Ashley, what do you think?
I just have to agree with this because it starts with that foundation, right? It's where what is important to the leadership? What foundation have we built at this dealership? What is it that we are showing from top down is what we have to deliver on? Because what we know is that everyone below the leadership is going to be looking at what it is you are measuring as the leadership. And so what metrics we're putting emphasis on, what those things are, if they don't align with what we're saying is important, which is that customer experience, if those two things aren't in alignment, then you're not going to get that buy-in, because ultimately they're still going to chase that metric. And so I just think it's crucial that everyone within the dealership understands the why. Why is this important? And I think it is, to this conversation, it's talking through with the team. Do an exercise like this. Tell me about your last great retail experience. Why was that? What Katie was talking about, how did it make you feel? Like, why is it that it was memorable? And so I think it starts with the culture at that foundation, because if it's not important to the leadership and it's not showing through their words and their actions, it's never going to be important to the rest of the store.
Fantastic.
And playing off that, Ian, for a second,
Yeah, go
what
ahead.
Ashley's saying, and everyone's I think excuse me, everyone's on the same track. But one of the biggest challenges I think stores have today is actually managing that a little bit. And one of the dealers that I worked with in the past, he told me one of the things that he did on a regular basis was he would send a friend of his that no one in the dealership knew he was a friend of, and have them go in there and experience how they were treated. And they would go back, and he would kind of like, it was like secret shopping, And I know, Katie, you've probably been involved in a lot of that with what you've done, but secret shopping your store and have somebody come back and give you a real life experience. What happened when they walked in the dealership, what they felt, what they saw, what they heard. And then management can go back from there and then basically go back and have those conversations, because sometimes that old saying, you can't see the forest through the trees. You're there every day, people are staying there, but when you have somebody else, somebody you trust, and you go back and they tell you, hey, I went to your dealership, or even just doing something as simple as calling the dealership and trying to make a reservation for service. I mean, I do it sometimes just to see what's going on. And it's amazing to me that in this day and age, you're treated so poorly when you try to call and do business with the service department. So I think with what you're all saying, I think it's great. We're hitting a lot of great topics, but sometimes the management's got to step back and get some feedback from somebody they trust to go ahead and start developing that, culture.
And use those examples. I mean, there's a gentleman in the auto industry in the U.S. who's been getting a lot of waves recently, and he's live streams negotiations with car dealers. But what was interesting about it wasn't that. It was the variety of experiences in one episode. Like, he calls 10, 15 stores, the transfer process, how the people are treating people over the phone. All that today starts online, goes on the phone, and then goes to the store. So if you're not managing that entire process, front to back, you should be using that as a training opportunity. I mean, he provides hours of content where you can say, okay, this person did it right, this person did it wrong, here's why, let's fix it. And it isn't about beating up, one store or one group. It's about what's our examples of great, and what's examples of mediocre, what's examples of poor. And really, it's about that customer can call anybody or visit any place. What's that look like? And what I find that's glaring in some cases, and not to beat up anybody, is what they're seeing online is not what they're seeing on the phone and not what they're seeing in the store. Those things should line up. And I think that's the biggest challenge that dealers face. The visit is definitely important, but if they're not lining that up so it all makes sense and they're providing that soup to nuts, then you're setting a high expectation and then you're letting them down. And that's a challenge. What do you think, Dave?
I definitely think it's leadership. I mean, they're the ones who measure everything. They're the ones who decide what matters. And they're the ones that empower their employees on whether they're going to make the customer experience difficult or easy. So from my standpoint, you can have great employees that could once in a while overcome a bad process, but they can't do it consistently. What I really like is what Peter just had to say about having somebody secret shop with it or go down the customer journey, because I think that's really where it starts. If you're going to fix anything and fix any experience, you have to understand what's going on in the stores and how they're treating their customers and how that experience is taking place from cradle to grave. But again, from my perspective, it's always started with leadership. Everybody has accountability. I'm an extreme ownership type of person. I think everybody has to understand the mission, get on board with the mission, and help the mission be successful. But without the leaders taking their role seriously and enforcing the processes that will help make that customer experience better, you're not going to get anywhere.
Fantastic. Dave Lampell, what do you think?
Well, I think that I'd like to add something different, but I absolutely believe it's all top down. And, the speed of the team is proportional to the speed of the leadership of the leader of the team. And you need to lead by example. So if you cannot expect your team to provide services and things that you don't show them are incredibly important. I think that one of the ways that as a dealer, since this is definitely starts from the leader or the owner or the GM of the organization is how is the dealership set up initially? So if you set the dealership up for success and when people hit the store and getting back to the previous comments where the lighting is good and there's a lot of business and people are scurrying around and it's created and set up so that the cars are out front and they're all cleaned up, they're not dusty, and the dealership smells good. There's mood music in the background. That sets the tone for the initial experience because the GM or the owner is not necessarily going to be talking to all of the customers, but if they see the care in setting the dealership up for success initially, so that when the customers hit the showroom, that's where it starts. And holding your people accountable for the culture of the store and what we are going to do to jump on the Ritz-Carlton bandwagon again with respect to you don't point, you walk customers over. If you can't answer the question, you take them to or you make sure that they consult with the person that's going to be able to give them the answer. Little touches like that across the board are huge, but it all starts from the top. If your people see in you that you don't necessarily care or that's not important to you, the bathrooms are a mess, there are things that don't get fixed, there's broken ceiling tiles, or there's different things in the showroom that do not reflect your intensity with respect to showing up properly, giving a great experience initially, then it's going to trickle down to the rest of your team. And those little things, you'd be surprised, you don't have to redo everything in order to make it homey and to make it feel good and to make it feel like a good experience. When your people see that you're walking the walk and talking the talk across the board, they will follow suit. And then you have the right to demand that from them if you're putting forth the effort yourself. If you're doing what is necessary to create that experience, not just online, but more importantly, when they actually step in the door, then it makes it easier for you to hold them accountable across. And that's where the culture starts.
Yeah, I mean, we did have a show on websites a couple weeks ago, and really it was about multiple touch points. But to your point, if those multiple touch points don't make sense, whether it be online or in store, then it all kind of falls apart. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of dealers aren't paying attention as much as they could be.
It has to be congruent. I mean, if your store is in perfect shape and they go to your website and there's broken, there's broken URLs and they can't go from page to page, and you go to a meet the team page and there's nothing there, and the contact page is broken. It sends the same message. I mean, if you don't care as the owner or the founder or the GM of the store, it's really hard to hold your people accountable. And then once they see that, yes, you're doing everything you can do to make that experience operational and outstanding for each of your customers, they either get on board or they move on.
Now, quick word from a couple of our sponsors.
If you look at the last 4 years again, we've answered 41 million phone calls for dealers over the last 4 years with our AI platform. We've also handled over 150 million text messages. And so when you look at just those raw numbers, that's a 4-to-1, 3.5, 4-to-1 text to phone call. So I don't know. Here's what I can tell you, though. I believe that the customer wants to be met where they are presently. If that is text, voice, video call, if they want to be engaged and engaged instantly.
I'm Vince Delmonico, General Sales Manager with Cruise Ford Lincoln. Larry Feldman came out and did one of our training courses. Absolutely incredible. I sat through the course myself. The engagement that our salespeople gained from it, the excitement that he brings, it was a new way of looking at things that we're already doing and how we can improve them. Love it. It's literally the best thing since sliced bread.
My name's Fareed Ahmed. I'm the founder and CEO of DSMA. So why should you use DSMA to sell your most valuable asset? The answer is very simple. It's our unparalleled approach to our clients' needs and satisfaction. Remember, DSMA, we're real people doing real deals.
Meta, Instagram, social, and your team is still waiting for ups like it's 1999. Let's be honest. Your market isn't watching TV commercials. They're double tapping and engaging with your competitors on social media posts. People are shopping these days for cars and servicing their vehicles in between watching cat videos.
Thanks very much. So, Katie, what's your thought?
Well, I have never met a business or an individual that doesn't have a strategy or the information to do it right. I've never ever met somebody that doesn't know how to do the thing they're trying to do. So it's less about the strategy, and to kind of piggyback on all of what y'all are saying, but maybe with a slightly different approach. I believe it's an inside out, not a top down. And what I mean by that is that we radiate 6 feet of energy around us at all times. And so what's going on within us, what we think, what we feel, what we believe in is conducive to what the team feels, your customer feels, and the nervous system or the culture, right? The business's nervous system of what it creates. So it is, in my opinion, it's an emotional mental state and story that needs to be worked on, the 5-star mindset, before a strategy can actually be executed. So I've never walked into a dealership that doesn't know how to be a kind human, because that's what customer experience is all about, right? Smile, use their name, make them feel like they're important because they are the most important thing, eye contact, educate them, be enthusiastic about what you do. It's a really simple concept. Be a kind, not a nice human, okay? Nice is forced. Kind, be kind, like you care about that person in front of you. We all know how to do that. Unfortunately, we choose not to. We all know how to pick up garbage. We all know how to make the place smell nice. We know how to line up chairs. We know how to greet a customer. We all know how to do that. And every adult that works isn't dragged into the dealership to work. At least the last time I checked, they get out of bed, they have their breakfast, they get into a car, they drive in, they choose to be there. So that's never the issue. The strategy is never the issue. And I don't think it's a top-down approach. I think it's almost a nucleus approach, and where it radiates out from the inside out. So it's your emotional mental state of the dealership. What do people believe in? How do they feel? So saying a lot of the same similar things y'all are saying, but from a much more specific place, because how they feel and what they think dictates the stories they tell themselves and the excuses they make as to why they can or cannot, which then impacts the execution of the strategy that they already have. So a 5-star mindset is really about, do you internally believe that it makes a difference? Do you want to be a kind human, or are you kind of putting a Band-Aid on it and hoping that it happens? So I think with most businesses, and I don't think I know because I've seen it over and over again, I rarely start with strategy. I always start with the 5-star mindset. If you do not have the 5-star mindset, like the reason Ritz-Carlton is able to do what they do is because they're ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen, and the mindset is such. Every employee gets a week at the Ritz-Carlton so they know what it's like to be served as a lady and gentleman, and it's the thing they talk about day in and day out, and it's what everybody believes in from the inside out. There was a story once told by a Dr. Wayne Dyer about an orange being squeezed. And if we were to squeeze an orange juice would come out of the orange. What's inside of the orange comes out, not apple juice, not grapefruit juice, not lemon juice. What's inside comes out. So my question that I always pose is, well, what happens? What comes out of you when you're squeezed? When a customer, frustrates you, when an employee shows up late, and a deal doesn't go through, when the service director or the service advisor was supposed to do something, or the porter was supposed to do something and then didn't do it. What comes out of you when you're squeezed, when the pressure is on? That is what the customer ends up experiencing. And so if you don't teach people how to manage their mind and manage their thoughts, because we have 90% of our thoughts we think today, we thought yesterday. So if you want to have a different result, you have to think about what you're thinking about and change it. So if we don't teach them how to manage that, have a 5-star mindset, it doesn't matter what brilliant strategy you have in place and what amazing atmosphere there is and the music that's going, it'll never take root and it'll never be solid.
Yeah, I mean, I had an experience I was sharing earlier with the tax agency. And I was talking to the agent, and I'm like, how are you so positive being that people hate you when they call you? Like, literally, I can't imagine a worse job. Like, other than a cell phone person, that's probably the worst job on planet Earth. She's like, well, I know that a positive attitude helps. And I know these people are struggling. And I know that I'm trying to help them. And it's all good. And I'm trying to be of help. And I'm like, if that permeated the cell phone industry or any other industry, that would definitely can permeate the car industry. I mean, if people like Dennis more than they like car people, that should tell you a lot about what you should be doing. I mean, be of help, 100%.
I think of what sales associates and advisors go through because customers, when they come in, they already have a preconceived notion that it's going to be a crappy experience, right?
Yeah.
So they already come in, these guests, with their back up against the wall, and these advisors, and these sales associates and these managers, they already have to deal with this preconceived, box around them saying, I'm not letting you in. And the only way to permeate that is to truly love what you do and be like, I'm here to give love, be love, receive love, and give joy. And if you can permeate that, the guest feels it, because we do have that 6-foot radius of energy. The feeling you're talking about, going into an atmosphere where it's dull, it's an energetic thing. I mean, music helps, right? That raises our vibration. Yeah. And so music helps. But have you ever heard the saying, you can cut the tension with a knife? Right? When you walk into a room? Well, it's because we actually omit 6 feet worth of cortisol when we're in a bad mood. So that's why I say it's an inside out job. And if you're within that 6-foot radius, you're absorbing that person's yuckiness, awful hormones. You're absorbing their cortisol, and then it trickles, and it's a kind of a stone in the lake effect, where you've got that ripple effect. So it's so important coming in every day with the right mindset, the right intention, with the right attention. That leads to the actions, which leads to the results, the lived experience.
100%. And it's possible in any experience. I even remember a border guard years ago. It's a Filipino gentleman, and he was having the best day. You could tell it. He's like, I'm like, how are you doing this? Like, nobody else I've ever experienced. That's his point of view. And it's all possible. It's just a question of what your mindset is. And I think when you go to work in auto industry or any other industry, if you have a great mindset, you're going to run into challenges. That's fine. But if you're rolling through it and having a good time and being of help, and that's what I always did when I worked retail, no matter how many long days I did. I mean, there's a problem, let's solve it. There's an opportunity to fix it. How can we make it work? Maybe it doesn't make sense, but that's okay, as long as you're attempting that. Dave, what do you think in terms of where the dealer should start. Like, I got a problem. I know I got a problem. My dentist is happier than me. I get it. How do I fix that? Where do I start? Like, how do I get on the road?
Well, you really have to understand the customer journey, and you can't fix the whole dealership at once. You really can't. You have to pick one journey that's creating friction and commit to fixing it.
Yep.
Somewhere where you have to go in there, you have to identify what you want to look at, measure it, improve it, and then keep on measuring it to make sure that you're moving the ball down the field. The other thing is you have to engage your employees. They know where your customers are getting frustrated. And so whether it's at the start of the process or in the middle of the process, they know where these issues are. And so, my recommendation is try to keep it simple. Try not to transform the whole dealership all at once. Pick one customer journey, be relentless in trying to address it before you move on to the next one. It can be departmentalized, of course. I mean, you don't have to just have one, you can have things running in parallel. In today's world, there's a lot of AI solutions that can help solve a lot of the issues rather quickly. But you got to remember that it's not the technology at the end of the day. Start with a business problem and go from there. That's my recommendation on where to start.
Fantastic. Ashley, what do you think? Yeah, go ahead.
One of the things I wanted to go back to, because one of the things we talked about in the last show, we talked about it, was we also have this virtual environment. So we're talking a lot about that. But the other piece I don't want us to miss on this call today is, we got to talk about what we're doing to get the people into the store. And I think that's really important. And the point I want to make is I got a piece of direct mail the other day about a car I hadn't owned. And literally, I was so, I hadn't owned this car in 10 years, and they're still sending me stuff about that. So when you look at that from the customer experience, part of this communication is when we get them in the store, but we also have to go and make sure, and that's why we've got the AI people and we've got Dave on the call, some people with the market, but we also have to make sure that the message we're going out to the consumer with today is a good message, because consumers aren't shopping multiple stores like they used to. They're going to make their decision, and you got to make sure that you lay the groundwork properly, and then make sure that groundwork that you've laid, when they show up, you're continuing that relationship. So making sure that communication is important and tying all together is very important, because it's the overall experience. And then the last piece that we need to just touch on before we end the call today, I know we're getting tight of time, is if you have a good customer experience and that customer's happy, my biggest recommendation is try and capture a video testimonial. There's nothing better in helping present your dealership and your environment than having somebody say nice things about you. Oh, the experience over at XYZ Ford was fabulous, and Bob was the greatest salesperson. So build that relation, but don't just end it there. Try and capture that, because that is going to help you build that ongoing relationship with the consumers. Because now they're hearing it from not you telling them how great you are, you're hearing it from their peers and other customers that you did give them a good customer experience. And that's really what's important, as well.
Thanks for that. Ashley?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. AI is a beautiful thing, right? And it's allowing us to be more effective, more efficient. There's so many things there, but what I see time and time again when I read about the customer adoption of AI versus the dealer sentiment on do they trust their AI tools, there's a disconnect there. And I think that a part of that is, are we truly teaching our teams how to responsibly use AI? Are we really teaching our teams that this is a tool? This is why we're using it. But then here is where you step in, instead of us trying to get our people to adjust to what AI is going to do. Is this becoming part of their workflow and part of their landscape, and something that's going to benefit them, and making sure that human piece of it is still there? Because we're not to the point where people are buying cars from the AI, right? Like, there's still, to Peter's point, we've got to still get them into the dealership. So there's a level of rapport where our AI may be of our first impression. We've got to inspect that. What is that first impression? Is that impression that the AI is giving, is that really on brand? Is that on standard for your dealership? And then when that piece gets handed over, what does that human interaction look like? Is there a disconnect between what's happened with AI up to that point that then translates into that human interaction? So again, I feel like there's this, you know, in the dealership and OEM space, you know, what are we doing to make sure that the employees truly understand the responsible use of that AI and how it's a benefit to them and what their piece is in that. This isn't replacement. This is a tool. And I think some of that's what's getting lost, maybe.
Fantastic. Jay, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I want to answer Katie's question. When you squeeze me, chocolate milk comes out, just so you know. So yeah. I love the Dr. Dyer reference. He's awesome to listen to. So, yeah, I mean, for me, putting my GM hat on, like, you got to do an internal audit. And a couple of you have already touched base on this. Look, every dealership puts on their webpage, we offer a great customer service experience. Like, what does that mean to you as a store, right? Because, and I say this with all love because I cut my teeth in the car business for 20 years. Like, I used to tell my team, look, the bar has been set low, unfortunately, in a lot of these stores, right? Because we would secret shop other stores, but having somebody come secret shop us, I think, is a good play as well. You know, so can we do 5-10% better than the next person? And because the one thing that we say all the time is like, look, customers will forget what you say, they'll forget what you do, but they'll never forget how you make them feel. And everybody's used that word on this call. So, but you don't want to try to eat the whole elephant at once, right? We got to do a couple bites at a time, and not to bump up an answer that I plan on using later in this pod. But you know, for me, I think I would start with my reviews, right? Like, it's amazing and astonishing, and it's kind of sad, like, how many dealers really don't pay attention to the reviews. They don't promote getting reviews. And Peter, you hit the nail on the head, right? Like, that was part of my comp plan for my sales team. It's like getting reviews on every single platform. And because of that, we had so many reviews that people would come in all the time. It was like, how did you hear about us, right? Because we wanted to know how you heard about us. Man, I read your reviews. I read your reviews, all your reviews. So I think if you were to pick one thing after you do the internal audit, decide what great looks like, what does that great experience look like that you guys want to provide at your store, and then start with just getting focused on getting reviews. That, to me, that's where I would start today.
Fantastic. David, how would you start? I mean, obviously there's a lot to be fixed, and I agree. I mean, one of the reasons I got into the car industry 26 years ago, even though it was in my family, was I felt the bar was really low, and I was like, there's a huge opportunity here. But go ahead.
Well, the bar was really low. Oh, which David?
Yeah, go ahead, David. Sorry, David Lampel.
So, yeah, the bar was really low, and it has been a slow moving bar over the past years and decades. The car business is definitely old school, and I think, though, to echo what everybody's saying, where I start with my dealership is I start with communication, and I start with the communication internally. So I'm talking to my people, and I'm talking to my people over in service, and I'm talking to my people in parts, and I'm talking to my people up front. I'm talking to my people who are answering the phone, and I'm talking to my people who are in charge of social. And those people are never going to be at a loss for telling you what needs to improve or how to fix things. The people that are part of the organization are going to be very quick to point out, what do we need? You go to them and you say, what do we need? They're going to be front and center. They're going to tell you 58 things that you need, 50 of them which probably aren't as important to you, but you're going to find some gems in there where, hey, look, we really need to fix this. I think everything is going to start with communication, regardless of whether it's inside the store or outside the store. And the communication outside the store would be from the reviews that you mentioned, from what are people thinking and how are they acting with our store? How are they communicating back and forth? How easy is it? Is it on point? Are the messages on point to what Peter said earlier? Are you communicating to somebody with a relevant message, or are you immediately pissing them off and showing them a complete lack of understanding by communicating with them on something that has absolutely nothing to do with them, which not only is a waste of their time, but also shows them that you don't care. You don't care enough to find out what's important and what's not important. So when you are including your people and finding out from them exactly what needs to be fixed, where are the issues, what are you hearing from the customers, and then you combine that with what are you actually hearing from the people. I mean, customers communicate. They don't have to call up screaming at you. They can just block you. And if you have hundreds of people blocking you, then you've got a serious problem, because now you've lost a percentage of your database that you can't talk to. You can't give them a better experience because they won't allow you to communicate with them. So there's communication internally and there's communication externally, and with not only your people, but with your customers. And I think that's where the rubber hits the road. I mean, you really want to find out? That's what you need to do. You need to listen to your phone calls. If you listen to your phone calls, which is very painful for the vast majority of stores nationwide, you're going to find out a lot of issues that you may not want to face. But the only way you're going to fix them and you're going to tackle these and grow your customer experience is by peeling back the onion and see where you need some help. And you're going to get it. You'll get it in spades. You just have to put the word out there and communicate to the people that are your touch points, and you'll get your answers. Yeah, we did a show, I think it was last week, on dirty data, and it was really interesting because we had a lot of different experts on, including a gentleman who runs AI and data for a large dealer group. But what was interesting was just the amount of data, to your point, where basically they messed up so badly that they can't even talk to those people. So what percentage is that? Is that 10% on the do not call list? Is it 20% that you can't talk to for any reason? So, that's definitely a first step. But, really when I go back 26 years and I look at where the bar was and I look at where it is today, I would say in some dealerships, it's up 30, 40%. And some, it's really not that different than it was 30, 40 years ago. And I think that's really where the opportunity is, to get that 5% better or 10% better, especially when consumers are spending 11 hours online on average day before they even go anywhere. So, you really got to look at it and say, okay, how can we, move that needle over time? And I think there's a famous performance actually go, okay, you just got to improve 1% a month. Like, I think part of it is that people, they think they're going to get 100% better in a week. Like, it's going to take a concerted effort, but more importantly, you got to pick your battles. And we did a show about technicians and compensation. I think it was last month. And then all the technicians that were commenting on them, they said, "Oh, you want to have a show? You want to have a show with just technicians so they can, I guess, air their grievances in terms of compensation." And sometimes our best show ideas come from people commenting, like, "Hey, yeah, I'm happy to hear from technicians." Nobody really talks to them; they just say, "Okay, this is what I think they feel," and I think that's part of the challenge. So, if you want to have the biggest impact, you want to change that customer experience, you want to have the biggest impact in doing that. What one thing do you think you should start with? Let's start with Katie on this.
I mean, I think that this answer will give an answer to both of your questions.
Okay.
This one and this one, and it's where do you start and what do you start with, and that's with the dealer. The dealer needs to get super clear on if he really wants to make the change, why he or she, I should say, wants to make the change, and how badly he or she is going to work to make that change happen. So I think it starts there and that promise to themselves. And then I echo everyone with reviews. So Ashley, to your point, how AI is this beautiful partnership that we could have. I do this with all of the dealers and dealer groups I work with. Run every single 3-star and below review that you have through AI and ask for all of the top misses that your customers are saying about you. They are the answers to the test. If you know exactly what they don't like, you can then decide what to fix. And so you can actually then rank it from what is the most prevalent problem from a customer's point of view and start there. It's brilliant what you can actually pull from AI and use as a partnership. It's not going to make the strategy or change the mindset or do anything like that, but you know exactly what your guests want. So I'd say start with the dealer. You got to decide you want it, because if you don't want it, it's not going to happen. You're spinning your wheels. Don't hold your breath. Don't waste your time. And then from there, listen to your guests, but do the hard thing and listen to the hard reviews. Listen to the ones that say, we don't like you, and here's why.
Yeah, I love that idea. I mean, if you don't know what the gauge of the problem is, how are you going to fix it? But more importantly, what would happen if a dealer principal or a general manager went through every bad review today, or even the good ones and bad ones, and just called the person and say, hey, thanks for the review. Like, thanks for taking the time. Like, can we fix it? Sure. But even if it's good, thank you. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the do not call list, there's a way to save it. I'm truly a huge believer in being a hero, and you can actually create loyalty out of a bad experience. I actually think you can create more loyalty out of a crappy experience than out of a flawless experience. You can create advocates. Call those people personally. If your database and your customers truly mean that much to you, and this is why I said it starts, with the dealer, check internally. What do you really want? How bad do you want it? Pick up the phone and say, hey, I know we pissed you off. Like, I know we did something wrong. Can you tell us exactly what we did and how can we fix it? Yeah, you're still going to have people that are going to tell you to hit the road, but just the fact that you called, they may be willing to hear from you again. Not all is lost. If you're willing to do the work, be humble, and put your guests first.
Yeah, I interviewed a good friend of mine, Bill Camastro, and when he's going through the process with his customers, when the salesmen are going through, it's like, okay, here's Bill's cell phone number. And if there's a problem, call him. And Bill says, I've had some really hot calls. And he says, the one thing that I say to my staff is, I am not going to tear a strip off you based on someone calling me. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to listen to them. I'm going to have that hot call on my cell phone. It's going to happen. That's okay. You did your job. But at the end of the day, if you're not listening to what that consumer says, I mean, I laugh when I see, talk to the dealer, and it's not an email. It's like a form. Or it's not a phone number, it's a form. It's like, who reads that? I don't know. Probably nobody. But anyway, Ashley, go ahead. What do you think?
Yeah, I think to Katie's point, listen, like, we have to decide that it's important. Like, we have to make the conscious decision. This is important. This isn't a 90-day rally that we're all going to be behind for a minute and then everyone's going to forget about, right? We're not going to get the t-shirts printed and then nobody even knows what it means.
Yeah.
So there has to be like that full commitment. Like, we are going to do this. We're going to make a change. We're all in, and this is what this looks like. To Jay's point, you got to decide, what does that look like? You've got to have a definition of, this is what great customer service looks like in our store. This is what exceeding customer expectation looks like in our store. And then also, we've got to empower the people that are the front lines to be able to make tough decisions, or the right decision, as long as they are armed with all of the tools that they need and the knowledge of what our expectations are. Arm them with the ability to make that right decision, then back them when they do, right? So I think it's important that there's that full buy-in. And then, there is when I have conversations with dealers, I think sometimes we have this missing link of customer relations. Service is not just the only thing. Like, me as an automotive customer, that service stuff is important, but you could be delivering me, like, what's the value of my vehicle? You could be asking, like, have changes happen in your life that make you need a different type of vehicle? Like, there is an ongoing relationship outside of just my oil change or my 30,000 mile checkup that we can be having. So do we have a focus on actual customer relations, or are we siloing that into just a service mentality? And I think that there has to be more of that.
Well, we're almost out of time, so I guess we got time for maybe a minute or two comments. But first of all, thanks everyone for taking the time today. I really appreciate it. Next week, we're talking about value, not price. So how to sell, what you're doing versus the price, which I know everyone sort of focuses on auto. Jay, Dave, and David, why don't we start with Jay? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think Katie and Ashley hit the nail on the head. The only thing I would add to it, based on some comments on that, buy Extreme Ownership, read it, understand it, take it to heart, And then I challenge all the dealers on the call, like, look, getting customers are great. Let's get advocates, right? A customer is going to come in, they're going to transact with you, and then they're gone. Advocates are going to continue to transact with you. They're going to tell their friends and family about you. They're going to continue to build your store and brand way past the transaction. So strive to get advocates, not just customers.
Thanks very much. Dave Carson. Sorry, go ahead.
I think Jay just wrapped it up, extremely well. Extreme Ownership is one of the great books out there for anybody who wants to really understand how to enhance an experience. Also, a big fan of the Disney comment. It might not be my fault, but it's my problem. Empower your people. Going back to what Ashley had to say and Katie had to say, really empower your people. You'll change the experience within the dealership. The experience equals relationships. If you get that experience to create the relationships, as Jay mentioned, you start building solid relationships. You get advocates because your people are helping customers solve problems, and they're being taken care of the way they want to be taken care of. So again, know who they are, respect their time, and communicate with them how and when they want to be communicated to.
Thanks so much. David Lempel.
So I completely agree. I mean, I think we've had some outstanding conversation with respect to customer experience here, and to echo Katie and Ashley's point again about it starting, you got to make a decision at the store, what's important for you. And once that decision is made, I think that one thing that you need to take heed is, it's easy to provide a customer experience when everything is going right. I said the challenge is what do you do when there are issues that come up? And I think you learn far more from customers that are aggravated or that are giving you reviews that aren't good, as opposed to just paying attention to the ones that were good. You're going to learn far more from the people that are complaining, and whether that's internally from your people that are asking you for help or wanting to make changes or wanting to make additions or improvements to the store, as well as your customers that are telling you what the issues are. And I think the great analogy to end with is, when we do phone call tracking and we're listening to the phone calls that come in, it's a gut-wrenching experience for most stores. And I think, putting your head in the sand and not addressing those issues or not wanting to hear the issues, that needs to come from the top. If you've really decided that this is what you're going to do and this is the path you're going to take, you're going to learn far more from the people that have issues and that are in a backwards way really helping you make improvements to your store, your processes, your communications across the board. You pay attention to those and you address those with some intensity. That is a good way to start. And that's not only internally with your staff, but also from your outside customers.
Thanks very much. Peter, final word.
I just want to thank everybody for joining us today's show. I think there was some great information, and I'm just going to reiterate what I said earlier. If you really want to find out what people are experiencing and what it's like, have somebody you trust, cyber shop your store, have somebody call and maybe include them into your marketing message too, and see what happens when your marketing goes out, because you'll be surprised. Like I found out, I didn't have that car for 10 years. You're not hitting the marketing message properly. You're not presenting yourself properly. You are going to lose that customer.
Thanks very much. Have yourself a great week, and we'll see you all next week. And if you are going to be in Detroit, we'll see you at CX 2026 at the end of September. Bye for now.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for helping the industry get better today live.